back to Zero Production Value Movie Reviews. I'm Hoernke, and today I'm going to be discussing the 2020 film Onward, directed by Scanlon. So this is the latest from Pixar. It revolves around two brothers and is set in a fantasy world with fantasy creatures. Think elves, centaurs, manticores, and the like, with one glaring exception. There is no magic in this fantasy world. So magic used to exist. In a brief introduction, we kind of get this backstory as magic used to exist, but then around the same time, technology came along, and the populace sort of decided that technology was safer and easier. So as they proceeded forward with technology, magic sort of became the stuff of lore and legend and left their thoughts. So basically, in the world that they exist in now is much like our modern day world with our sort of capitalist, materialist society, but just, running around, working, doing the laundry, living in the suburbs, drinking Starbucks. But just think our world like that with fantasy creatures and apparently rabid unicorns who munch on trash. In any case, so we have two primary protagonists who are brothers. Our first one is Ian, who's an elf teenager, still in high school. And he's sort of a lonely nerd type who lacks in friends and confidence. He is voiced by Tom Holland. And his older brother Barley, voiced by fellow MCU alum Chris Pratt. It's funny, I guess the Mouse House must take care of itself, as it's all Disney. So in any case, our two MCU brethren are now brothers in this movie. In any case, Barley is also a nerd, but a much more loud and shameless nerd. Like I said, he's a bit older. They don't really tell us, but I think he's supposed to be out of high school. He still lives at home. He's enamored with all things fantasy. He rides around in a beat-up old van with is it a unicorn? A unicorn or a Pegasus? I think it's a Pegasus painted on its side. He calls it Guinevere. And he plays a fantasy game, sort of like Dungeons and Dragons, but it has cards. But anyway, a fantasy role-playing style game. So those are our two primary protagonists. And then, as we begin, sadly, aren't we always sort of saying that in Pixar films? Sadly, it's sort of the way Pixar goes. It's kind of this thing where Pixar apparently tries to make us cry in every movie, and they're pretty much successful at it. But anyway, like I said, it's a Pixar formula. It works for them, and it's what we're gonna get. So, sadly, the brother's father passed away when they were both very young. Barley barely remembers him and can remember a few little things, and Ian doesn't remember him at all. So going forward to now, it's Ian's 16th birthday, and the mother presents them both with a gift that was supposed to be given to them from their father when they were both 16 or older. So, and what they get is this staff, essentially a wizard staff, and it also contains instructions that Barley discerns to be that if they can make the spell work with the staff, they can basically bring him back to life for a day, which they both obviously would love to have. Ian, I think we're supposed to get very quickly that his growth is sort of, I don't know if his growth is stunted, but he feels like not a complete person because he doesn't have that knowledge of his father. He doesn't have his father's touch. He never got to talk to him. In fact, when we first see him, he's wearing like his old father's sweatshirt. So it's a very strong motivation for him. It'd be a strong motivation for anybody, I suppose. So in any case, Barley is overjoyed by this because he believes, unlike most people, that magic at some point was a real thing, and he's like, ooh, this can work and we can do this. And Ian is a bit more skeptical, and they proceed forward in any case with trying to make the spell work, and after many tries, it eventually sort of works, sort of. I don't really want to give too much away, but let's say it works sort of. In any case, they figure out that they need this gem, what they call a phoenix gem, to help them, let's say, complete the spell. So they saddle up on Guinevere and ride off for a fantasy quest in a so-so fantasy world. A lot of their challenges and a lot of the humor of the story is going to come from this magic, no magic world, as we see things that we think of as fantastical in like mundane settings, and then as they sort of try to work magic back into the world, I guess is what they're doing. And there are chuckles along. I mean, there are, like I said, I don't want to completely paint it like Pixar is just going to make you cry the whole time. There are chuckles along the way, like with, I mean, it's like it's a pretty standard Pixar movie, so you kind of know the laughs you're going to get, you kind of know the tears you're going to get, and that's pretty much the way it goes. So the boys learn that Ian is sort of the one with the magical aptitude, and throughout the course of the day, he sort of Gary Sues his way into being rather adept by the end of the day. If you don't know what that is, it's basically when a character, in this case a boy character, a Mary Sue would be a girl character, basically doesn't have any training or knowledge and then can do whatever they're supposed to be able to do without that. You know, they start as sort of bumbling, and then they sort of are no longer bumbling, but there's no real learning curve there. So along with their quest, the mother figures out what they're doing, and then she sort of comes along chasing them, as she learns that if they find this gem, it also apparently releases a curse. So there's that. Predictably, the conclusion, as this all comes together, the conclusion is like predictably rousing and also sentimental. Like, you have a rousing sort of actiony kind of conclusion, but then also that strong sentimental core that Pixar wields like a blunt instrument, and it does, and they do it in an interesting way. Like, there's, I guess, a way you're anticipating it, and then there's the way it's done, and you're kind of like, oh, that was a kind of a neat little twist on the model. If I had a negative, I would say I wish they would have done more with the boys' quest to make it, I guess, more real, more tangible in their world. Like, the path that they were following seems so like not really cohesive. Like, where they were getting their information from and the tools in order to do what they needed to do, like, I just wasn't buying it. I wish they would have, you know, something like, you know, find a map, or given a map, you know, like a map to a treasure, kind of like that sort of fantasy quest thing. And when you see what the clues that they're following, you're just kind of like, really? So I'm not saying it wasn't horrible the way that they did it. I just think it was a slight flaw in the movie, and it could have, like, that part being done better could have made the movie better. But overall, I think this was a nicely entertaining movie. You know, it had fun, it had some adventure, it had some laughs, it had some tears. This is pretty standard stuff from Pixar. Pretty standard formulaic movie with a different setting, different characters, and a few tweaks. But ultimately, it's one of those, if you like that sort of Pixar model, you're gonna like this. I like that Pixar model, I liked this. Like I said, it can't be I don't think it's going to be a great movie, because it's not really improving on the model, it's not breaking the mold, but it's a fun, entertaining movie for what it is. So overall, I'm going to give Onward a B. I love you, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching my movie review. As always, I am Eric Hoernke, rhymes with turnkey, and this has been a production of Zero Value.